Hey there, welcome back to my channel. This is episode 1 of my Kitchen Basics cooking class. And we are going to start out with the most important thing you can have in the kitchen. Kitchen knives. I'm going to point out the most important ones to the least important ones, in my opinion, of course. We're starting out with the most important knife in any kitchen, and that's the chef's knife. This is an 8-inch chef's knife. They do come in different shapes. That's a Japanese shape. That's the classic German shape. This is the knife you need in your kitchen because it's an all-rounder. It does pretty much everything: slicing, dicing, cutting meat, cutting vegetables. This is the knife that I would say is the absolute must-have in any kitchen. I know those big knives, they can be a little bit intimidating, but once you get a little practice and learn how to use them, they are a lot more efficient and a lot quicker than all these little knives that you can use. So these knives will make your prep work quick and easy. You are going to use this knife for extended periods of time. You know, you need all the vegetables for your soup. You're working with this for 15 minutes. So you want a handle that's really comfortable to you, and this is the main and most important factor on a chef's knife. If your hand is not comfortable on that knife, it's not the knife for you. So definitely grab the knife whenever you go knife shopping and make sure it feels right in your hand. The other thing is balance. That has to do with the length of the blade. This is an 8-inch blade, and I would say don't go overboard, don't go over 8 inches. I've tried 10 inches and I have pretty big hands, but a 10-inch knife is very head heavy. So it just topples over in your hand, and that makes cutting with it very uncomfortable. For day-to-day use, this 8-incher is probably it. If you have very small hands, maybe try a 6-incher or a 7-incher, they are around. That's the most important part, is this knife has to be comfortable. Moving on, the little helper of the big guy here is a paring knife. I have 2 of them here. They come in different shapes and sizes. What they have in common is that they usually are 3 to 4 inches in blade length. These are both German ones. They are very cheap, but they work really well. Paring knives make those little precision cuts that you have a hard time doing with an 8-inch blade. Peeling something, you know, getting a bad spot out of that potato, stuff like that. This is also a must-have knife. The handle or comfort of the handle is not as important as with a chef's knife. You're going to use these a lot less. Still, you know, if you find one where you say like, oh yeah, this is nice, get that one. Now we are getting to a knife that I wouldn't necessarily say it's a knife, but of course it's some kind of blade. It's a peeler. I prefer the vertical type, so like this, that's in line. There's another type that's like Y-shaped. I don't have one of those. I'll find a picture and put that in here. As the name stipulates, these peel things, so you can peel a cucumber, peel an apple, whatever has a fairly thin skin, that's the peeler to go with. What you want to look out for is, they come in 2 main configurations. Ones are, and it's usually the super cheap ones, they have a fixed blade. That's a bad idea. You want a blade that pivots. See that? There you go. So this blade pivots. So that means when you go over that potato, the blade accommodates the shape of the vegetable, and vegetables aren't perfectly shaped. So you want this pivoting blade. This, in my opinion, is also a must-have knife in the kitchen. Number 4, the serrated knife or bread knife. There's a reason why we call this a bread knife, because that's almost the only use for it. I say almost because I use these kind of knives for like squash, anything that has a hard skin. The serrated blades are perfect for that. One thing to look out for, don't get a blade that's too aggressive. So when you look at this blade, you can see it's got decent teeth, but they're not really spiky. This is a very aggressive one. Can you see the difference? with the teeth that aggressive, you're tearing whatever you're cutting. I'm just keeping this to show to people that this is not the serrated blade you necessarily want. So go for something that is a little bit less aggressive and you're going to be good. Now here's one I would categorize as nice to have. This is the next category of knives, the ones you don't necessarily need for the kitchen but are really helpful. This is a boning knife. It's about a 6-inch blade, I would say. The sole purpose of these knives is to debone something. Then we come to a knife that everyone knows from Thanksgiving and Christmas, a slicer. A slicer is used for slicing, so you use it on a roast, you use it on a turkey, and that's pretty much the only use. I found another one for it. This knife is fairly stiff. It has a very low profile, so it has less drag, which makes getting the skin off a salmon fillet much easier. That's what I use this mainly for. Generally, these knives come with a matching fork because that's how you do it, you know, when you have a roast. This is one of the knives. They're useful, but they're limited in use and you don't necessarily need them. A chef's knife can do pretty much the same thing. Now we come to a category of knives that personally I think is a pretty useless knife, and that's utility knives. A lot of people swear by them because they're somewhere in between a chef's knife and a paring knife, so they're like oversized paring knives. And people use them to do the function of a chef's knife and a paring knife in one knife. Personally, I'm not a big fan of that, but of course, you know, if that works for you, use them. Then there's another one that's maybe nice to have if you go fishing, and that's a filleting knife. Very thin profiled blade, very flexible blade. Let me show you this. Very flexible. These knives are perfect for filleting a fish, and that's pretty much the only use I see for them. Thanks for joining me on this little knife journey. If you think this series is useful to you, like, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell so you don't miss an episode.